From cracker and white bread to toasty and ashy, malt is arguably the main reason so many beer stars exist today. And Victory Malt is generally described as contributing toasty, nutty, and biscuit flavors to beer. But how noticeable are these characteristics when just 5% of a malt bill consists of Victory Malt? Well, to find out, Brülosophy contributor Will Lovell is brewing a Festbier. Both batches have a malt bill of Pilsner and Munich malt, and then to one batch, Will added 12 ounces of Victory malt, and to the other batch, he just added another 12 ounces of Pilsner malt. He then served both beers to people in a triangle test. So, did the toasty, nutty, biscuity flavors shine through enough for participants to distinguish the beers? Let's find out. This episode is sponsored by More Beer. More on them in a bit. Will, I'm a big fan of Victory Malt, and I'm guessing if the fact you based an entire experiment around it, you probably quite enjoy it as well.
So I'm one of those people that there's some articles floating around where, in recipes where, you just add a touch of Victory Malt just to get a little bit of that cracker toastiness in there. And so I've been one of those people that describe that, oh yeah, just do a hint of it. And normally in my 5-gallon batches, that was like normally around 2 to 5 ounces, normally less than 5 ounces even. Just a little sprinkle in there just to give it a little bit of that crackery, toasty, bready goodness in case your Pilsner malt wasn't doing that for you. And so I've been a big subscriber to that. And so got in a conversation with Brülosophy's Jordan Folks about it. And he obviously does not ascribe to that. And he thought it was bohuckus. Not to quote him, that's just the word I'm using. I don't think I've ever heard Jordan Folks say that, but if he did, it would be pretty funny. Next time he's on the show, please give him a say bohuckus. So I decided I would put this to the test, and so it's 5% is kind of the low end in most of these recipes that I've been doing it in and seen online. It's a sprinkle, just a 2-3 ounces. I decided that'd be a good test to see it in something like a Festbier, something that is just the nice, wonderful, pale, fizzy goodness of Oktoberfest. If you go to Munich, what would it do there, Martin? What would it do?
What would it do indeed? And Festbier, a fine choice. I mean, I think this is a beer that should be drunk year round, not necessarily just for beer festivals, maybe in the fall. So why did you pick Festbier?
Well, I'm not going to lie. Once we get close to September, my heart starts a yearning for what they serve in the Oktoberfest in Munich, which is Festbier. And so I literally was just kind of trying to come up with ideas of how do I brew one now. And so that's what I did. So I pitched this Victory Malt I did to the crew. It got approved and off we go. But I'm with you. I think it's delicious enough we could drink it year round. I might prefer it to the darker Marzen style Oktoberfest beers. So to me, this is just one of those nice, wonderful crushers that whether it's the middle of summer or the middle of winter, I think I could crush it anyways. But the fall is typically when I yearn for it because that's when I can hear those tints a calling and I must go.
Now, I enjoy it when we go into these experiments with a little bit of preconceived notions. So you mentioned, this idea of sprinkling a bit of Victory Malt in, you thought would probably make a difference. Not everybody agrees with that. So you were going into this maybe thinking this is going to be something that is distinguishable.
Right. So either this is going to be something distinguishable or I've just been wasting my time. And none of us want to believe that we've been wasting our time, right, Martin? So I designed a recipe to put it to the test. Essentially, the malt bill is pretty straightforward. It was about 12 pounds or 84% Lano Pilsner malt from Tex Malt. It was 1.5 pounds of Munich malt, or about 10.5% of the malt bill. And then for one of the batches, it was 12 ounces or just over 5% of Victory Malt. And then the other one, I just made up the difference with the 12 ounces of Pilsner malt.
So I think when we're talking about 12 ounces, we can think that in terms of the gravity points this is going to contribute to the beer, it's not really going to make much difference either way, whether it be Pilsner or Victory.
Again, I don't think I'm worried about the gravity as much here. Again, I've been using roughly 5 ounces or so in my other pale lagers just to give it that little bit of cracker and bread crust flavor. And so I thought for sure if we went all the way up to 12%, which is more than double what I would typically use in a beer such as this, then surely we could exaggerate that out.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's a little bit more exaggerated just to see what we get. So tell me about your brew day.
I started out my brew day by adding identical volumes of water to my separate Delta Brewing all-in-one electric brewing units, adjusting each to have the same mineral profile, and then set my water to get heated up to my strike temp. Once the water was heated, I added in my grains, and then I set them to mash for an hour at 152 degrees Fahrenheit. While it was resting, I decided to prepare my kettle hop additions. So for this one, that was going to be 24 grams of perlite at 60 minutes, 17 grams of perlite at 30 minutes, and then 31 grams of sots at 5 minutes. When the works were done boiling, I took refractometer readings showing that there was a little bit of small difference in OG. We're looking at 13.7 versus 13.5 bricks, or 1056 OG was, or 1055 OG. So the batch that had no victory in it was just a point higher than the batch that didn't have any victory in it.
Yeah, and I think we can just write that up to chance more than anything to do with the variable. I know when I've done these side-by-side brew days like this, even if there is no variable at the initial mash stage, then I found that it's often like a point or so different anyway.
Yeah, and you can chalk that up to anything. I mean, the accuracy of these devices is, within just a few bricks, point decimals of a bricks anyway. So you're right at the accuracy of these devices and what they can do. It could have had a little more, proteinaceous content in the one that you measured. It's hard to say. So anyways, after I took the gravity readings, I transferred the identical volumes of wort into my Delta Brewing firm tanks, and which are attached to my glycol system. And if you aren't using glycol, it's okay. You can still make delicious beer. But I will say, it is a lovely addition if you are super geeking into this hobby. I've really enjoyed mine, and so and the best part is I don't know about you, Martin, but I will set mine to chill. And while I'm cleaning up, it will literally get down to yeast pitching temperature by the time I'm done cleaning up, and then I just walk over and pitch my yeast. I don't know if that's your experience or not with yours. It's just amazing, though.
Isn't it beautiful? Yeah. I will chill the wort to maybe 100 Fahrenheit or 40 Celsius or something, just real quick, get it into the fermenters and let the glycol do the rest. And yeah, like you say, by the time you've cleaned up the brewery, it's ready to pitch. I love it. So what did you pitch into this beer?
So again, I cooled it down to 66F, which was going to be my fermentation temperature. So already people are going to roll some eyes because I'm doing a little bit warm. But we do have plenty of data showing that, for at least for the yeast, I'm going to use L17 Harvest. I think that the experiment we did showed that there was a difference, but preference data was towards the warm side, which was a little bit interesting. So I'm a fan of L17 warm. I don't know about you, but I think it's delicious.
And I'm looking at the beers now, and they look like they have come out really well. And looks like the gravity rating, the final gravity was actually the same with the two anyway. No points differences there.
Right. So the batch with no victory came out at 10:09, and the batch with victory came out at 10:09. So that's, to me, is not that surprising. Again, but we're kind of at the edge of, the accuracy that these things can be. So that's pretty awesome. So I ended up pressure transferring them into kegs. And then I threw them into, I actually have like kind of a conditioning chamber that I'll kind of set stuff in from time to time. And so I basically put it on CO2, let it carbonate, and let it sit in my firm chamber / conditioning chamber for 3 weeks. And then after that, the beers are carbonated, ready for evaluation. And although they were a little bit hazier than I expected, I thought they were still pretty delicious. So,
well, the question is, could participants tell these beers apart? But before we get to that, a quick word on today's sponsor, and that's More Beer. Now, More Beer's slogan is absolutely everything for beer making, and it's easy to see why, given their selection of over 8,000 products like the Brübil X3 Uniconical stainless steel fermenter, or the Comos series of kegerators that give you everything you need to get started with dispensing and serving your homebrew. And for quality fermentations, More Beer carries cellar science, yeast, and nutrients. More Beer offer free shipping on most orders over $59, and also be sure to check out their awesome YouTube channel. Check out everything More Beer has to offer at morebeer.com. Now, before this beer was presented to our panel of blind tasters, Will actually tried this beer himself 5 times in a triangle test. Let's see how he did.
kind of the way I do this, like my kids and my family are out of the house. And so I have 2 cups with X's on the bottom, 2 cups with nothing on the bottom. And so kind of what we're doing here is I'm going to shuffle them around and do my triangle tests 5 times through and see if I can distinguish the difference of a Festbier made with barley malt versus one with a touch of Victory malt in it. I don't really know how I set these down. Came in my garage, so we just kind of spin them around. Yeah, what's what, and then we just kind of go through it. And kind of what's interesting is, I guess, with the Victory malt, you'd expect kind of more of a biscuit cracker character to it. So let's see what we can get. Based on aroma, I'm thinking these two might be the same, but let's give them a taste. I'm just going to go with my first instincts. I'm going to say that these two are the same. And I am wrong. I don't know if you can see that. So apparently these two are the same. Cool. Well, let's do the shuffle. I feel like this is going to be a hard one. I'm going to go mostly on flavor this time since the aroma kind of betrayed me a little bit last go. I feel like these two are the same. And I'm wrong. And these beers are delicious. We'll go with this again. Oh, look. Now we're 1 for 3. Ta-da. Yeah, I'm honest. Like, these beers are very, very similar. I'm going to go with these two. And I am wrong. Yeah, I think these two are the same. And I'm wrong again. So, I was able to accurately identify the odd beer out 1 out of 5 times. So, safe to say that I can't tell the difference. So let's see how the tasters do. I can just say this is a true testament of my palate. True testament of what my palate is capable of, which is very little, obviously. So obviously another case of somebody having a crummy palate, and there I am, just 1 out of 5. Couldn't even get up to blind guessing. Just 1 out of 5.
It's amazing, isn't it? You think like just by chance you'd always get at least 2, but that is not always the case.
Yes, it's most of the time I'm getting fewer than 2 out of 5 at this all the time. Yeah. So, but it could possibly be that I don't have a crummy palate. It could be that these beers were not discernible by others. So that is why we served this beer to 21 people, and each participant was served 1 sample of the beer made with Victory malt, without Victory malt, and 2 samples of beer made with Victory malt. In different colored opaque containers. And while 12 tasters, 12 out of 21 would have needed to have actually identified the unique sample, I got away with it. They couldn't do it. 7 out of 12 did. So apparently, it's at least this time we cannot blame my crummy palate for my poor results. Perhaps we can blame the fact that Victory malt, at least in this percentage in a Festbier, just isn't that significant.
Vindicated. At least your triangle test was vindicated. But remember, the original hypothesis here was like just sprinkling in a little bit of Victory malt is probably going to make a difference to a beer. You did more than sprinkle in a bit of Victory malt here. You added a good amount, and it wasn't detectable to you, and it wasn't detectable to the other participants. So what do you make of that?
Well, what it means is that the 7 pounds of Victory malt that I have in my stash in the garage is still going to get sprinkled in places because I don't know what else to do with it. And then maybe if we order more, we're probably not going to order quite as much next time because we're going to probably try to use a reserve for those places where it makes sense to add a larger charge of Victory malt. But, hey, this is just one beer. This is one experiment. It may be that we can go out and do something like an ESB or something like that with a larger percentage of Victory malt and see if there's some other results. So I'm kind of curious what we can do if we put a little more someplace else, Martin.
Now, Will, you also worked on a Hop Chronicles beer a little while ago for a hop called Superdelic, and you can find out all about how that one turned out in this video here.